Welcome to Shawn and Carter have a podcast. My name is Shawn.
I'm Carter.
And a recently asked, but I guess somewhat frequently asked question has been, why don't we do this live?
We actually recorded all of these years ago.
Right. And
we've been rolling them out.
It's been an amazing archival project.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like the end of Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I thought maybe you found some tapes from Alex Crawley or something. You were rolling them out one at a time. Like
Only
Jay.
one more tape remains.
It's true. We'll talk about that. Why don't we do this?
So why don't we do this live? I think today is a perfect example of why we don't do this live. I had to work, Carter had to work, but we had to do a podcast, and it was kind of like throughout the day, we just kept in touch, and we were like, so when are we thinking? Like, this time? Yeah, I think about that time. Yeah, probably that time. Do you think you could go earlier? Yeah, maybe we could go early. As far as when we're going to actually record, we don't know practically until we do it. And to have a live audience waiting until the last minute, knowing when we're going to do it, and then all of the audience who miss it because we didn't announce it until 5 minutes before we went live, and they're all upset because they missed it. That is my biggest reason for not doing it. We don't have a good time that we can always record.
I mean, technically, we're supposed to record this on Thursday nights. That's what we agreed on almost a year ago.
Have we ever recorded it on a Thursday night?
The first time.
The first time?
I think even I think SCHP2 was recorded on Friday.
We had already slipped by the second episode.
And see, Sean and I were talking about this too. And also, you guys, the After Dark stuff or the stuff that you don't hear, I think it's probably interesting to Sean and me. You guys would be like, God, when are they going to start actually talking about stuff? But we were talking about, we're just like chatting, and who would find that interesting?
Right.
Live.
It's a lot of like, how are you? What did you do? Oh, this happened? Oh, that's cool. Did you see this movie?
Yeah.
And then I think the other practical reason that I don't like to do it live is, just like most things I do, this podcast is produced, which means that it's edited and segments are sometimes reworked a little bit. I don't know if you noticed, but like 2 weeks ago, we had a little uncomfortable moment between us that I completely cut out.
I didn't know.
I forget what it was. It was something about a TV show, and like...
Was it How I Met Your Mother?
I don't remember. One of us like cut the other one off, and then we were like, well, fine, I don't want to talk. And I went through and I just cut out that 30 seconds. I was like, the world doesn't need to hear that.
Exactly. Well, and also, so I'm thinking of Dan Benjamin and the 5x5 Network. There's a dozen regular podcasts that are always at the same time every week, and that's his job. So they can have a live audience because he makes sure that Hypercritical starts at this time, and he's clever about it. He usually records a couple different shows in order, and then has one master live feed for an audience. So, you start with Amplified, and then if John Syracuse isn't ready right away, he can talk with Jim Dalrymple from Amplified for a little bit, waiting for John, and the audience can be like, "Oh yeah, this stuff is happening." It's not just like dead air,
Right?
And it's always at the same time. We never record at the same time.
Yeah, trying to arrange a live production with the way that we're doing this right now is just out of the question.
Right.
Sorry, guys.
So you'll have to just continue communicating and engaging with us through Twitter and
in the
comments.
future.
And in the future. That leads me to my only little bit of follow-up, which I wanted to call out the discussion that's been happening on last week's podcast.
Yeah,
in the comments on the YouTube video.
SCHP37 Part 1.
Part 1, Vapple.
Well, how did this start? Did I make a comment during the podcast?
No, I know exactly where it started, and I'm just going to say I think that someone in the comments misinterpreted something that I said, or they didn't take it the way that I intended it. We talked about statistics, we talked about the birthday problem,
right,
and coincidence, and I said, Captain Sciencey time, and then I said, well, this isn't really Captain Science. This isn't really a Captain Science topic. It's just statistics. What I was saying was, this wasn't like a structure. Someone didn't ask a question that we were answering, really.
We weren't launching into our patented segment Captain Science.
Captain Science is not a segment. We're going to talk about formats in a little bit, but Captain Science is not a regular format. And that's what I was basically saying. Like, well, this isn't really Captain Science. I'm just talking about statistics a little bit. And then someone in the comments, I forget who it was saying, well, math is science. It's the same. They're related in intimate and interesting ways. And there was one of the most interesting and civil conversations about a topic that people disagreed about on YouTube that I've ever seen.
I have been known to delete the worst comments that I receive on my main channel. I haven't had to touch this discussion.
Yeah, I'm hugely impressed. It speaks volumes about the quality of the audience of the show, that they can actually disagree without being disagreeable, which on YouTube is 99% id, 0.5% ego, 0.5% super ego. It's just the raw bare, it's the lizard brain all over the place, and now you can call me out on Captain Science and be like, oh, lizard brain, that's stupid. That's our thing.
Yeah, so thank you to our very grown up and mature audience for, even when disagreeing, doing it so nicely.
Yes. I'm not going to weigh in. I don't want to. I think the conversation's interesting. I just wanted to say thanks. So, sort of follow up. Elaine and Ron follow up. I think they're eventually just going to be their own podcast.
I pointed out in my response that they already are, whether they're like it or not.
They are a podcast, and what I think. So what the first thing that I thought about while I was listening to them this week, and I had to only listen to about 40% of the episode because they talked about Sandman, and
that was where I had to
stop.
I had to duck out too.
Well, because I don't even own them.
They're doing the same thing we're doing. We talked about Cabin in the Woods for an hour, and I don't think Elaine listened to that.
Right. Well, and maybe she just didn't find it interesting. I might go back someday and listen to them talking about Sandman, but I haven't read it yet, and I don't want to be spoiled.
It's sitting right beside me. That doesn't mean I've gotten past the first 5 pages.
Even if it was sitting right beside me, I wouldn't have time right now to do it. So, I mean, we're doing Marble Hornets, we're doing all these movies. I got a day job.
Well, they have their own audience, so that it's for them.
Exactly. And something that I thought of was, there's this institutional inertia on these projects where, they started as a thing where they wanted to have a longer form response to something we did. And now, if we didn't have a podcast next week, I bet they would still have one, because they have enough stuff to talk about that they could do one.
Right.
Which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, when I talked to Elaine shortly after she appeared on our podcast, she talked about how interesting it was to her just to pontificate about things a whole bunch, and she said that was something that she was really interested in getting into, and now she's doing it. So good for them.
Yes, Elaine was a very good guest. She fit our format very well. So, first little thing. Advice to high schoolers and college students. So Ron mentioned, lots of people go to school for X and they end up doing Y,
Mm-hmm.
Go to school, and that happened to me. And they were giving some advice, like go to the departments, do this, do that. And I just wanted to make that global connection that happens to everybody, that everybody goes either to school or to do something, and you have this idea X and then you turn out Y. Like, I was certain I was going to be a lawyer, and then I was certain that I was going to be I was going to work in politics, and then I was certain that I was going to be a philosophy professor, and I was certain I was going to work in a library, and I don't know any. I do. I ended up doing one of those things, but I moved in a lot of crazy, monkey-minded different directions, and that's just life.
I'm still fairly certain that I'm going to be a fireman.
Really?
One of these days, I'll just walk into the station and be like, "Suit me up, fellas! I'm ready to go." I've been practicing since I was 5.
Only if it's a firehouse that has a pole, and you sleep on the top.
I drive past the firehouse in Lancaster every so often. I haven't actually looked in to see. It's 2 stories, so
maybe
it's possible there could be a fire pole.
Yeah, probably not though.
I'll just duck my head in, just checking to see if we've got a fire pole.
Right. Okay, next little thing that I wanted to mention from their podcast. I'm just gonna call it a podcast, guys. You can call it a video cast as much as you want. I think you answered this in either your response or in a comment. Uh, was it Elaine? Ron was
The class
befuddled that
size
we
thing?
knew the size of our class. And you
I
mentioned,
knew because it was printed on every single report card I got.
right, and I think I've said this before, but maybe it wasn't clear. The reason why I knew my class size was because it was 50 people.
Because you could count it.
I knew every single person in my class. My entire high school was only 200 kids. And this is a little mini topic that I wanted to talk about. I went to a teeny tiny school. And as I've gone off in life, in the world, I've sort of realized that I had a very non-standard high school
Yeah,
experience.
no kidding, man.
And I don't relate to other people's high school experiences, and I'm like, I don't know what you're talking about. And so Ron was talking about, well, I went to an elementary school, and there were this many elementary schools that fed into this many junior highs, that fed into this many high schools, and he was talking about school districts, and I'm like, I don't know how school districts work because my school was one building. A single building had every kid pre-K through 12. One building. So I'm like, just have no idea what you're talking about. Something that I don't think. So did you have like announcements in high school? Is that something that happens in high schools, like over the PA in the morning?
Well, actually, our high school had a television department, and the students did a live broadcast every morning.
Okay. I think that that's true in a lot of places, or there's announcements or whatever. We had what was called morning meeting. Morning meeting is the entire high school gathered in the commons and sat by grade, and it was actually kind of like a big deal because if you're looking at them, the ninth graders were on the far right, and the sophomores were, sort of center right. The juniors were center left, and the seniors were off to your far left. And as you got older, you just moved across the room.
Okay.
But everybody could fit in the room, the entire high school. And then announcements were any single person in the entire school, for whatever reason, could get up in line and do. They could talk, like, I decided I wanted to get up today and talk about abortion for a couple minutes. I'm going to do that right now.
Whoa, right. Really?
Yeah, I remember.
Not like I'm having a bake sale on Friday to support the whatever?
We had that too. The student body president was sort of like the moderator, and he stood up. He or she was it always he when I was there? No, I think we had a lady. No, I think it was Nandini. I'm going through. You guys don't know who I went to school with. Why am I?
Oh yeah, her.
Nandini, remember her? They sort of moderated the whole thing. But I remember very distinctly someone got up and did a little like 2 or 3 minute kind of like PSA about not using the word gay to mean stupid.
Oh my god, that would never go down at a normal public high school.
I remember distinctly because she said what she was going to do that entire day, and what she encouraged everyone to do was replace "that's so gay" with any word, and she said she replaced hers with "that's so Catholic," which was really controversial. And we're like, you shouldn't do that.
No, I had that conversation as a student teacher to several bodies of students, and that did not go over well. I can't imagine being able to be a peer of those people and give that speech and have it received anyway, other than, hey, we're going to make fun of this person for the rest of their life.
Yeah, well, she maybe unrelated. She didn't end up graduating at our school, so. And also, a cool thing about morning meeting was that I was part of the theater program, and we would do ads. We would workshop like some little teeny bit of material, either related, come up with something on our own related to the play we were doing, or maybe like a teeny tiny part of it, and we would just do it at morning meeting as an advertisement for the show.
Okay.
Which was pretty cool. And then also, in these schools with like thousands of kids, you could never do some of the things that we could do. We did what we called teasers for our performances. We would do 10 minutes of the show. If it was a musical, maybe we'd do like 2 or 3 musical numbers, like kind of stitched together with some dialogue or, some interesting part of a play. And the entire school was made to go to the theater and watch that teaser. You had to go.
Huh.
And and we were like, and then we're going to be performing it on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It's like you could never do that, and you could never do that in a regular high school because there's too many kids, and there's no way that you could get them all out of. How could you get all of them out of class? Because we took up class time.
Well, the only similar thing I can think of in my high school is whenever they would be getting ready to do the play or musical, those kids for like 2 or 3 days before the weekend where it started that's all they would do all day. Like they would be out of class, they would go do the play all day. And if you had a study hall, you could leave the study hall and go watch rehearsal.
Got it.
And like if you were in an English class that the English teacher like had an affinity for chorus line or whatever, they would be like, hey, let's go watch the musical for a period. And you could just like, I remember I watched an hour and a half of Guys and Dolls first period and last period one day in high school.
I like that.
Yeah, it was fun. And it served as a little advertisement in case you like weren't at all interested, but I was the kind of guy who I was probably interested anyway, so it was just fun to go see my friends like singing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. But like, for us, it was like, no, you got to go. You're going to the theater and you're going to watch this, like it or not. And another thing, we didn't really have a lot of cliques because the school was too small. So there weren't like jocks. There was, I play lacrosse and I do chess and I do the theater program because I can do all of them. Mm-hmm. So we never really had those distinctions between people. We had other types of cliques, much more socially corrupt cliques at a very tiny school because you know everybody. It's sort of like imagine a large family. Imagine like the Bluth family, but it was all teenagers in a high school. That's the types of social corruption that can occur there is very insidious, and I could do a whole separate podcast on like just that. But
yeah, your entire school was smaller than my class.
Right. So yeah. Moving on. Ron said the word ridiculous with a very specific cadence. And when he said it, I said out loud, we talked about like talking to podcasts.
Yes.
I said out loud at the very same moment Elaine said out loud, ridiculous, like Harry Potter. Just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, I talk to everything, actually. I try and guess like characters' dialogue when I'm watching live TV. Every so often when I'm right, it's the coolest thing.
That's awesome. I don't do that.
I actually called a line on Parks and Rec the other day or last week that included the F word, and I was like, how in the world did I call that? Because every so often Parks and Rec will just pull that out.
Yeah, you get to know the characters, you get to know the writing style, and you
can make some educated guesses.
Yeah. Something Elaine said is a callback to something we said months and months ago before I don't even know if she knew you at the time. It was one of the very earliest podcasts. We were talking about why we don't like Facebook and why we do like Twitter. Mm-hmm. And Elaine had basically the same thought. So yay, Elaine. She agrees with the way that we think about it. That Twitter is sort of like this whole stream of the internet, like zooming past you, and that's it's like you're opening up the internet and watching it kind of just like flow past you. It's like watching a little ticker of the internet, and that is why I like Twitter and why I don't like Facebook.
It's like, and you can personalize your own ticker to the sources of news that you seek.
Yeah. And I think that same episode was the episode that I said that I was leaving Facebook, and Elaine is leaving Facebook.
Facebook.
I'm back. So Elaine, if you follow the same trajectory, you'll eventually make your way back. I never
You
checked.
You had to come back.
I had to come back to check on like people I was hiring and be creepy, but
I have accidentally reactivated my account 3 times, but I am not actually back.
Yeah, I mean,
for those of you who have seen me pop up and then disappear again, I'm not trying to do that. It's just Spotify.
Oh, Spotify. So, last thing before I have a very short topic is show formats. I was listening to Elaine and Ron have a response to, and I was thinking about the format of their show. The format of their show, I think, is inspired from the format of our show.
I'd agree.
They do like follow-up short stuff at the beginning. They've got a main topic, and now they're doing some sort of entertainment-related project. And I was thinking about that because you don't have to do it that way. You could totally rearrange the order or do different things entirely. And I just want to, let the audience know where our format comes from. Is I just ripped off two shows that I like. I mentioned this already. I really like Dan Benjamin's network, and I listen to a lot of the podcasts on it. And I just basically took Hypercritical and the talk show, and I just slammed them together, and I made our format. So the way that Hypercritical works is there's follow up, and then there's kind of like short, and short topics. I've explicitly taken short topics out and made it its own thing. And then they do a main topic. So it's just like follow up from the last time, and then we do a main topic. And then the talk show was basically what it sounds like with John Gruber. It's just talking. It's just him and Dan Benjamin talk.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no structure at all.
That is the style of both of the podcasts that I listen to all the time.
Yeah.
There is no structure.
Which is crazy. I couldn't do that. I'm way too... That would drive me insane. So I knew I didn't want to do that. But at the talk show, at the end of all of the talking, they would do some entertainment thing to kind of cap it off. And actually, this is... we made probably a good decision to not do James Bond. We were thinking about doing the James Bond movies.
Yeah, I think we talked about that before.
Really happy we didn't do that. And the talk show ended up doing that. So they covered that.
If we had done that, we would have only finished it like 11 episodes ago.
Yeah. I mean, so much James Bond. But yeah, I just liked those two shows, and I took those formats and I put them together. So I just think it's interesting. Like, people think about the format of their show, it's unless it's just talking. But even just talking is a choice.
Right.
So I just thought it was interesting how shows come together.
Yeah. So keep making your show, guys. We like it.
Yes, we love your show. Okay, I have a short topic. I told Sean what it is already. You guys don't know. I made some purchases this week, and I want to tell you about them.
And I'm pretty oblivious. I know that you made purchases, but I don't know what they are.
I tweeted an Instagram of some of them. It's my desk setup. So I've bought some hardware and technology to kind of help with my workflow, and I just kind of wanted to go through all the little odds and ends that I got. So the central thing that I got is, and I'll give you the link, Sean, if Alicia wants it. It's a stand for my MacBook. It's a rain stand. This thing is beautiful.
What does that even mean?
Well, the Rain is the brand, so it's a little stand, and it holds your MacBook up at like a 45-degree angle, so that if you have when you straighten out the screen, you're looking at it directly with your eyes straight on.
Okay.
So it's an ergonomic kind of thing.
Gotcha.
It's milled from a solid piece of aluminum, just like the MacBook, so it matches it, brilliantly. And even when there's nothing on the stand, it just looks really, really cool. So highly, highly recommend that. I also finally switched back to using a mouse, which is like a really big deal, because I've been using the trackpad this whole time. And I gotta say, those gestures in Lion, do you use those very much when you're using Alicia's Mac?
Yeah, I do, actually.
Oh, man, I use them all the time. And going back to a mouse, I really needed to go back up to a mouse for spreadsheets. It was just driving me crazy. I couldn't accurately click on teeny tiny cells with my fingers. Not being able to just do like 3-finger swipe down, do that, up, left, right.
You don't. Once you learn those shortcuts, I went over to my computer after I'd been using her laptop for an hour, and I was like, damn it. Now I can't do half those cool things that were saving me so much time.
Right. So you can replicate some of those with the keyboard, but I am very clunkily doing that. And I mentioned that because I bought a keyboard for my Mac, so I've completely stopped using...
You're just using it as a screen now.
It's a screen and it's a computer with a screen. I'm using an Apple extended keyboard, which... if people know me really well and how freakish I am about design, that's a big deal because it's got a wire coming out of it, which I hate, but I really wanted the little keypad on the side for data entering numbers. Uh, and then the last thing, Ricari kind of foretold this many weeks ago. I bought an half a terabyte external hard drive to do my backups to. I was just
Ah,
getting a little paranoid that if like my computer caught fire or
I'm
something,
about to inherit one from my father.
my backups would just turn to dust along with the computer. So, I all of these things came in separate boxes. Uh, and I got this really cool thing. It it's called a plug bug, I think. It's a little piece of hardware that you
I can hear you. I can hear in your voice that you're looking at it.
I am
It's
looking at
really weird. I'm not looking at you, but I can hear it.
you take off the end with the plugs from your Mac's charger from the brick.
Okay.
It's this red thing, and boy is it red. It is a gorgeous color. It's like red. It
Like
is
sports car red?
FF00. It is FF0000. It is like the reddest you can get. Sport car, yeah, Ferrari red, I would say. So maybe not FF 40s. I'm cracking.
I can't wait for the dozen or so people to get that, get your hex code reference.
Yeah. You replace you take this piece of hardware, you replace the top part of that. It's got a plug, and then the back part of it is a USB connection, so you can plug your Mac in and you can charge
A
your
bunch of other
iPad.
stuff.
Yeah, anything that you can charge over USB. It's pretty cool. I liked it, but everything came in a different box. So and for some reason, it was like three different carriers. It was UPS, it was FedEx, and it was the post office. Which is like throughout the day, people were like, "What the hell is going on with Carter? Why is he getting all of these things?" It reminds me of an XKCD, obviously. One of his characters comes up with the idea of setting up a little web script that finds a random $1 free shipping thing on eBay every day, and it has access to an account with $365 in it, and it just randomly picks them and ships them to him. So every day he's got like a new awesome surprise to open.
That sounds really fun. I want that.
I want that. Probably don't want that. I still have all the package stuff in my office, and my office mate got a big printer, so it was just littered with boxes. Now I gotta take care of that. Oh well. So that was a little random, but now we got random question time.
Cool.
The randomness that's built into our format, not the randomness of my life.
It doesn't say it's controlled randomness.
Controlled randomness, yeah. So our first random question is from Ron. And he wants to know what's our favorite ice cream flavor. Sean, you got a fave? You got a fave?
Yeah. This is especially interesting because I used to have a favorite. I think my parents can attest to this. My favorite ice cream used to be mint chocolate chip.
Mm-hmm.
I just loved it. And now for some reason, mint flavored treats I just can't do at all. I'm totally. It's not like I'm like ew, but I'm like, oh no, I'm gonna go with. I'd rather go with like chocolate or something. But my favorite ice cream flavor is now the simple cookies and cream,
Interesting.
which is basically mint chocolate chip, but without the mint and with the vanilla ice cream instead.
Right. You've simplified that. I'm a big fan of mint chocolate chip. I would say I got an interesting answer. So I would say my favorite ice cream, just like out in the world, that if I just wanted to have some ice cream, I would probably get coffee ice cream. I really like coffee ice cream.
You weirdo.
Yeah, whatever. If you think that's weird, the next thing is much more weird. Uh, so
Is it
I happen
pistachio?
to be from. I'm not a huge fan of pistachios. I am from Columbus, Ohio, at one of the unknown foodie spots in the country. There's a huge amount of very creative, new, for like crazy, like awesome food options cropping up in Columbus.
That's
People
where
had-
it's going on.
that's one of the that's a little hot spot. There was a New York Times article about it just a couple of years ago. It's like who'd have thought Columbus, Ohio, right? Crazy. So one of the big, sort of now nationally well known, interesting food options in Columbus is called Jenny's Splendid Ice Creams. Outside chance some of our audience might have heard about it. I'll send Sean a link to it. Uh, it's the best ice cream that I've ever had in my life in the world. Uh, this woman Jenny, she like was classically trained chef, trained in France, and decided I want to dedicate my life to making ice cream. I'm gonna do it in Columbus, Ohio, and she makes the most interesting ice creams. You would never think it would be good. You'd be
Okay.
like, you can't combine those things. Uh, uh, she's got one of the most popular flavors there is Thai peanut with cayenne.
Really?
Hmm. Uh, I'm
I
on
would
the
try
website.
that for sure.
It's really good. Uh, so I'm looking at some of the flavors here right now. Uh, cherry lambic sorbet. So it's a cherry beer basically based sorbet. Uh,
Is there
what else?
alcohol content in it?
They have whiskeys and pecans, which I'm a huge fan of. Uh,
Wow.
one of the best selling, like if you're from Columbus and you like Jenny's, and everybody does, the thing that everybody knows and everybody likes, salty caramel. It's caramel with salt in it, and it's delicious.
Okay. Yeah, I actually at my grocery store I sell a salty caramel apple dip.
Yeah. So and they do these limited edition, just like, oh, I had this idea, I'm gonna try this. I'm looking at some of them right now. Lemon cardamom, uh, plum sake sorbet. Um, they did for a while an ice cream that was cherries, and the that was sort of like the interesting side flavor, and the base was corn.
Wow.
You wouldn't think it would be any good, but it's so incredibly good. And my favorite thing to get there is I don't know what it's called. It's dark chocolate with burgundy wine in it. It's really good. So that's what I had to say about that.
That's
That was pretty
nuts.
random, right?
That's
Pretty random.
I had no idea that there were so many gourmet ice cream flavors that I couldn't even imagine.
A lot of it is it's kind of like a hipster foodie kind of thing where it's, oh hey, we have a friend who has a whole bunch of lavender, fresh lavender. Do you want to like take this lavender and make it into some ice cream? And they're like, yeah, we'll like do lavender and blueberries and some interesting alcohol, and oh my God, it's so good. And some of them are bad, and you're like, this isn't very good. And they're like, oh yeah, we're realizing that we're not gonna make this one anymore.
It's like Bernie's bots.
Yeah, they crowdsource their flavor options.
I think that's an excellent question that our audience could answer. So if you're watching this on YouTube, leave a comment of your favorite ice cream flavor if Carter hasn't totally put you off with all of his bizarre combinations.
Well, there'll be a link to Jenny's ice creams in the comments right above, or in the notes right above where you're commenting, and you can just take a look there and maybe see which one you want to try. So yeah, leave a comment. We'd like to know if what your favorite ice cream flavors are, or if anyone has any non-traditional favorite ice cream flavors like me. Random question number 2 comes from Will, and he wants to know if we play or enjoy, summarizing him here, any variants on solitaire, like spider solitaire. Or
He just
free
assumes that we have all this free time in our life.
just whittling away on solitaire.
No, actually, when I saw this question pop up, I was like, I don't think I know how to play those variations. He was like, what variations do you know other than these? And I was like, I don't think I know them.
I know Spider Solitaire, which is it is quite fun. Played a lot of that in um, study halls in high school. Other than that, nope, don't know any.
Yeah, I know the basic solitaire, and I think that I could figure Free Cell out again. It's been a long time. I think the Microsoft card game that I spent more time on was on Windows 3.1. It had Hearts.
It sure did.
I played a lot of Hearts, and I still know how to play Hearts, and I really like that game. Hearts and Spades are both really good 4-player card games.
I don't know how to play Hearts anymore, but that was something I was thinking about. Is I played a lot of solitaire on my grandfather's old Windows PC, and the state of the art in graphics was the cards coming out at you when you completed solitaire, and I thought that was amazing. It's like, look at them, it's like they're coming right at me. And now today it's just laughable. I mean, today there are probably watches that have enough computing power to do that.
Surely.
Last question comes from Mr. Sapling. If we could go anywhere in the world / space on vacation, where would we go?
Why not extend it to the multiverse?
So, if you could go anywhere in space or time. That is not the option. You gotta pick.
I do like that he included the option of space, but I think I'll limit my travel to this earthly plane. I think I would go to the Mediterranean. That's I've never traveled to Europe, and if there's a part of Europe I'm most interested in, it's definitely the Mediterranean, like Italy, Greece, the islands.
I approve of that. A lot of history there too.
That's the primary reason. I mean, I've got 2 tattoos on my body, and they're both in Latin. I'm pretty strangely obsessed with the old world.
One of the podcasts I listen to regularly is the History of Rome podcast with Mike Duncan. It's one of the best podcasts out there. This is very apt for me because I am planning my vacation. After November, I will be traveling, hopefully, for an extended period of time to Vietnam. So that's where I would want to go.
Wait, Vietnam, California?
There's Vietnam, California.
Vietnam, Florida Keys.
Yeah, the Vietnam and Canada. I'm going to Little Vietnam. No, the Vietnam.
The Vietnam.
The Vietnam. I've always been fascinated by Southeast Asia. Took a whole class on it in school and college, and we've got a very large Vietnamese community in Richmond, or just outside of Richmond, and I love their food, and that's the biggest reason why I want to go to Vietnam. Food is just endlessly fascinating to me. Like this ice cream stuff, I think it's fascinating. Just how culture is spread through food, and how food can cause conversations and friendships.
Oh my God, we should have a freaking huge anthropology podcast with Alicia on it sometime.
Sure. I mean, that is fascinating to me, and I've always been attracted to the flavors and the preparation of Vietnamese food. I like nothing better when I'm sick than a nice spicy pho. And I want to spend some time in Vietnam, specifically in northern Vietnam, with some day trips down to the south, because I'm told that it is beautiful.
Are there any famous filming areas from any of those Vietnam movies that are traversable?
I don't know.
Or safe?
Yeah,
head into the jungle and find Kurtz.
Yeah. That's not exactly my intention. My intention is more to rent a hovel for a couple months and be off the grid and eat delicious food and make friends and relax and not think about the real world.
Well, Scott Mosier's story when he came back from Vietnam, when he told it on Smodcast, was that there are children who try and con you immediately after you step into the country. They try and sell you an animal that they tell you is going to be killed for food. And in his case, it was an owl. And they wanted the equivalent of a couple dollars. And he was like, well, okay. He saw that it was some kind of... He knew that he was being schemed, but he was like, I'll give this kid $4 or whatever. So he gives the kid the money and walks away with this owl. The owl immediately flies away and goes back to the kid.
It's like the little monkey in Indiana Jones.
So watch your wallet, I guess, around children in Vietnam.
Yeah, I understand that there are some, risks associated with it, and also that I don't speak a word of Vietnamese, so
Well,
I'm
lucky
just
for
gonna.
you, everyone in the world speaks English.
Yeah, I happen to speak the lingua franca. I might try and pick up a little Vietnamese, but I'm sure that I'll just sound like an idiot if I try and speak Vietnamese. But that's what that is both where I would want to go if I could go anywhere, and where I am hoping to go.
Lucky
So
you. I
lucky
have
me.
no immediate plans to to descend on the Mediterranean, unfortunately. It's kind
Yeah.
of out of the question.
I have not had an actual vacation since I don't know, 2007 or 2008. Long time. Long time.
I was at the
Basically
beach
just
briefly last year, and then the year before that, I had a honeymoon on a Caribbean island. So I don't. That's pretty unbeatable.
That's pretty nice. That's pretty nice.
Yeah.
Now that I'm
I'll
thinking
link
about
that video in the description. It's on my main channel.
link it. Link it.
Shawn and Alicia's honeymoon.
Well, that's the end of random questions, which means it must be Marble Hornets time.
Marble Hornets entry 56.
They're putting these out pretty rapidly. I'm sure that they wouldn't say that they're doing a weekly schedule, but it seems like they're hewing to mostly, an entry, and then about a week or so passes, and then we get a to the arc, and then a week or so passes, and we get an entry.
Just
tough to
enough
do,
to keep
especially
us
with
interested.
Yeah, it's tough to do considering the amount of work I'm sure that these take.
Mm-hmm.
You dissected a lot of the work that went into this one on Five
Yeah,
Things
I wanted to see. There was that one thing, and Ron kind of called me on it, and I'm still not sure. But there's this one thing that I think there's a cut when Tim puts down the camera, and it doesn't even matter. Like it has no no effect on the story or what's going on. I just wanted to prove that they set up the frame specifically, and Tim had to make it look like he was putting the camera down without a cut. And I still think that there's a cut there. But it's so subtle that unless you're me, you'd never notice.
Right. I mean, if there wasn't a cut, then they just did it. They had like a monitor set up, or someone was watching the screen on the camera, and they did it like dozens of times.
Yeah, then that is
So-
probably likely too. I listened to that Marble Hornets like interview that they did in 2010, which we've left off the docket because it was recorded in 2010. It's really inaccurate now, but they said the majority of the outtakes that they have aren't funny things. They're just like they mistimed something. Someone wasn't where they were supposed to be at a certain time or whatever. Like that's what I would imagine they did this shot several times to try and get it right. If in fact there was no cut there.
Yeah, definitely. It's a pretty straightforward entry, but they've been taking us off in the I would say is Tim possibly a malicious character direction, and this one kind of reined that back in.
Yeah.
It's like, no, I mean, even if he is, let's not forget that Alex is a jerk face. A big jerk face.
This is the location that we saw just a couple episodes ago, where Tim has in that entry. Tim was in a room. It looked like he was sick or had been otherwise incapacitated. Now we get to find out why he was incapacitated.
Yeah, we have to assume that this happened, at some point before entry 51, or was it 52? Was it the last one where we saw that? 52?
Yeah.
Sometime before that, maybe even immediately before that, because Alex mentions in this one that he's going to come back with Seth.
Yeah.
And then in entry 52, he mentions, oh, yeah, Seth is sick. And it's like, is Seth sick, or did you take him down into the basement and off him? Like we saw in entry 13? I forget.
Way back when.
Way back in the day, back when they didn't know what they were doing. And now they have to kind of backtrack and figure out, like, oh, this is what that is. We got it. Yeah, so this was a pretty tense one, and it ended up being, it ended up not just being tense and then nothing happened, something happened. But this is another one of those where I was just like, oh, God, What's gonna happen? What's in the box?
Yeah, it's a pretty
Through the whole-
claustrophobic first-person perspective, going through these twisting hallways, and man, that building was messed up. Looked like a bomb went off in there.
Yeah, I'm wondering if they had to dress that set or if they just found a building
It
that
is an
was
absolute
so.
wreck. I have no idea why would that building be in that state?
Yeah, search me.
We
I
have
don't know. I
no
mean,
idea.
it, I honestly cannot say. It would have to be, someone acquired land and it had this thing on it, and it's too expensive to tear down, but they don't want to do anything with it, and then over years kids have just like come there and just wrecked it. I think
That's
there was
definitely
a place
what it
that
looks like.
I think there's a place back when I was in high school that kids would go to, and do bad things that kids do in high school, and people had been going there for decades, and over the course of those years the place is just like, oh my gosh, this is a wreck. Because every time, it's like, oh, we're gonna break a window, we're gonna tear down this, we're gonna do that, so the place looks messed up. It's got rebar in it for some reason. Where'd that come from?
The prop department.
Yeah, I think so. uh, the something I was confused by. I really would like to know what happened back there between Alex and Tim, and like what was going on, because this is the reason why I have a question about this. Tim sets the camera down. He goes off to take a whiz, and Alex picks up a length of rebar and presumably attacks him. But you never hear Tim scream or say anything.
You don't hear like a body hit the ground or
if you got hit,
ow.
I doubt that Alex even rebar is it's a solid iron rod. It's pretty. If you get hit with it, it's gonna hurt. I don't think Alex could have hit him in the head so hard to knock him immediately unconscious. And like, right.
Finish him.
Finish him. That was awesome. I don't think he could have hit him that hard, and even if he did, we didn't hear him slink to the floor.
Yeah, why is there a missing sound effect?
And they're intentional, so it's like, well, what happened back there? I don't know. I was confused by it.
I have two questions, both related to cameras. Why did Tim leave that camera on?
Mm-hmm.
Because at that point, I don't think we were yet in the process of filming everything. Were they? I don't know why we would put the camera down still running until later in the filming process, when that became like standard procedure. And then
right.
Alex, it appears, I'm figuring that because we've been told by the title cards that Jay has one more tape, I'm assuming that the other tape is the one that we're looking at in Alex's hands.
Mm-hmm.
But it looks like Alex turns off his camera.
He puts it on the ground for sure.
Yeah, it doesn't appear to be. I don't think the footage from that is going to show us anything, at least for that instance.
Yeah, I think it could be that tape. I mean, if what we're assuming is when Brian gets led to this burnt-out building, Tim escapes. He picks up both of the cameras. I guess that's what.
Yeah, that was my. Okay, I guess I had three questions that were related to the cameras. How did the footage from this tape end up with Tim and then with Jay?
Right. I mean, I think that's gotta be it. That he had to have escaped, and I don't necessarily know enough or remember enough of of all the details of the plot to know if he had to have escaped at that moment or if he could have escaped later, but I think that's true. I think Tim obviously escaped, but yeah. I think it had to have been when Brian got captured. He used that opportunity, the chaos of that, as an opportunity to book it.
Okay.
Although for some reason he's like, then I gotta get the cameras. Or, I mean, Tim's memory could have been wiped as well.
Well, clearly it has, or he wouldn't have just given these tapes up to Jay because he would know what was on them.
Right. Well, I mean, his memory might have been wiped multiple
He
times.
doesn't have anything to play them with, but if he had remembered enough that he was attacked on the tape, he wouldn't have just given it to Jay. He would have like gone to the police or, put on a mask and tortured Alex.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Uh, as for your theory that the operator probably pulled the camera to the floor, yeah, probably. Probably.
It's always been in debate whether or not the operator can move things like that, and it seems like the audience is pretty split on that thing that I talked about Jay getting sucked towards the operator or charging him. It
Uh,
seems like every single person is. You ask one person and they say that he charged them, and you ask the next person and they say that the operator sucked him in.
I come down on it. I think it I haven't watched it a bajillion times, but from my memory, I think it looks like he gets sucked in, but I don't know.
No one does.
I, regardless of that, I think that the wind didn't blow the camera to the ground. The operator, like something related to the operator, caused it to fall to the ground.
What I thought of was like the reason thunder happens is because when the electricity is removed from the air, it creates a vacuum, and the thunder is the sound of the air coming in to fill the vacuum. So what I thought of was when the operator comes into our plane, it's not like that's a normal event in physics. It's going to be like a very bizarre thing that will change the area directly around him. So if all of a sudden he's just there and he wasn't there before, things are going to move around. It's not like he just opened a door and walked in.
Right, right. Well, I mean, literally, he appears to be a physical presence, and he takes up space, and there was air in that space before,
Yeah.
and then he's there. So at the very least, you would probably feel a draft or something. Like you would feel that because he immediately pops into the space. He displaces all of that air immediately.
Exactly.
It's not just gone. Does unless every single time he comes into our universe, he's destroying small parts of it.
He is
Completely.
antimatter.
Right. I mean, and this would be under that theory that that's like unprecedented, right? It's like matter doesn't get destroyed.
Yes,
So
some of the main
maybe
theories on
maybe he's
the
slowly
wiki,
destroying the world.
some of the main theories on the wiki have to do with like quantum physics and stuff. So I'm trying to tie into that.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, and cameras are attracted to him. Both cameras and the people who have cameras
Yeah.
are attracted to him. Uh, you know, the I don't know if I've ever seen this theory before, and I don't know if I buy it myself, but this is completely unrelated to the theories we've been spewing. But it could be that cameras give the operator. It could be exactly the opposite of what we've been saying. It's not that the cameras fix him or somehow reduce his strength, but maybe they increase his strength because every time we've seen him do something crazy, it's been on camera.
Yeah.
Like when he disappears the guy that Alex jacked up with the rock, there was a camera on him.
Right.
And he does the same thing in a very similar way, I might add. Here, there's a camera on him. It looks pretty. The visual effects are very similar. They were using very different visual effects this time around, which I found odd. I'm just putting that out there.
The effects of the operator?
Yeah, I just thought it looked different from the way that they've done a lot of that stuff in the past.
His disappearance was almost exactly the same as that like tunnel.
Yeah, I know that was, but when it was on him, I think it was more clear than it usually is.
Okay, yeah.
Except,
yeah.
you know,
It goes out of focus a lot when it's on him.
right, but this one I could sort of more clearly see him.
Yeah, there was
The way
actually
that they
quite
were-
a bit of complaining on the Unfiction forums about this episode because they said that the operator didn't look very good.
Yeah, I think it was because you could very clearly see him. But that's just me. I didn't have a lot of complaints about this episode. I thought it was good. I think that they are dragging this out a little long. I mentioned as we started the season that I was happy that they didn't do the thing that they did in season 2, where we had like 7 entries before Jay gets tapes, and then we finally get to like the actual content of the season. And they do set up some stuff with him and Jessica, but the stuff that we were like waiting for didn't happen until way in, and this one we get the tapes right in the second entry. But now I'm feeling like, okay, the real action is going to happen once he's done with the tapes. Can we just get done with the tapes?
Yeah,
already?
one more entry and then we'll be done.
I think you're right that it'll be Alex's POV. I'm interested to know what he saw in that building.
The only thing that I know for sure that he was staring at was that operator symbol, because he was staring at it when Tim came into the room and did not even seem to pay attention to that was what Alex was doing.
Yeah, he did.
As soon as he got close to him, Alex just like closed the viewfinder and started walking the other way.
Yeah, I mean, you got to just wonder, like, was Alex summoning the operator? Did Tim put the symbol there? I don't, there's so much stuff that we don't know. All right, well, hopefully we get to the arc pretty soon, and then we'll have more things to discuss.
Yeah.
Well, it's time for the big show.
We're finally going to wrap up this discussion.
Well, yes, and we've expanded it. I don't think we specifically mentioned in the show that we were doing this Drag Me to Hell thing, but it was out there. People did know about it. You talked about it on a vlog.
Yeah.
So yes, we're not gonna describe the plot of Cabin in the Woods. We're actually gonna just chat about the movie and talk about some interesting connections between that and the 2009 movie Drag Me to Hell, I believe.
2009.
Drag Me to Hell. Sam Raimi's horror film, kind of horror comedy.
Yeah.
Mostly horror, though.
So spoilers abound from here on in. If you haven't seen Cabin in the Woods and or Drag Me to Hell, you may want to avoid this part.
Yes. Spoiler alert. The sirens are going off. Maybe Sean will put in a sound effect of sirens.
Yeah, it's me going, whew, whew.
Okay, I'm not going to do that whole thing. So, I think that it's pretty clear on Cabin in the Woods, but I think I almost always launch our discussions this way. What did you think? Did you like it?
Yeah, this is exactly the movie that I wanted it to be. I started reading about Cabin in the Woods 2 years ago, and I thought of The Initiative from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. It was impossible for me to not think of it, because it basically said, like, it's the typical Cabin in the Woods story, but it's got a twist. People are pulling the levers. And I was like, okay, cool. But I don't think I ever could have called what I was about to experience, which was being terrified and laughing at the same time.
Yes, that is the tone. I'm going to talk about the tone. The tone of this movie and the tone of Drag Me to Hell are very similar, and they're also I think that that's just obvious. An argument that I'm going to make, and Sean, you can either say yes, I'm right, I'm on the right track, or no, I'm just like an idiot, and why, like, I'm seeing things that aren't there. An argument I'm going to make is that these movies are also not just thematically connected, but they're also they're subversive kind of communications to the horror movie industry.
Oh yeah, yeah. We talked in our summary last week about how Cabin in the Woods was a pretty clear shot over the bow to all the other companies, including Lionsgate themselves, who distributed this movie. All the other companies making awful, schlocky horror movies. Lionsgate
is chief among the quote-unquote good studios, or big studios. They are the chief offender when it comes to pushing out crap. Like, I'll still see it, and I'll still see it because I'm an Ancient One and I want to be fed, but it's not very good.
Right.
The thing I thought of immediately was the Nightmare on Elm Street remake. That was such a piece of crap. Obviously, I was going to see it, and it's almost I feel kind of like this is a bit of Louis C.K. stand-up. It's like, okay, you got me. I'm gonna go see it. I'm not gonna like it. I'm not gonna like myself afterwards. I go see it. I just tweeted something. You all in the world, Mr. Sapling tweeted something, not at me, but just 2 tweets below me on my timeline. I just tweeted something that I want to mention. I talked a lot about how I hated the trailer, and the trailer ruined the movie. And I was thinking a lot about that between the last podcast and this one, I have a new hashtag that I just started that everyone should jump on board, and it's boycott all trailers. I can't I can't say enough how much the trailer ruined a perfectly good movie for me. But that's you heard me talk about that last week. I'm not going to talk about it.
They're
this
awful.
Week.
They're so bad.
I read a bunch of reviews of this, and I think the Slate review intentionally went out of its way to not spoil anything. And they even said, oh yeah, and you might have seen some of this stuff in the trailer, parentheses, which by the way spoils a lot more than we do.
Yeah.
Anyway, I liked it too. I thought it was excellent. I think it's the best horror movie of the year so far. And this is not going to get nominated for any awards. It's a great movie, but the Academy
it will be overlooked in every category.
It will be overlooked in every category. The category where it shouldn't get overlooked, I think, is screenplay. But it probably will.
It will because of the Oscar campaigns at the end of the year. The Oscars are largely about politics in Hollywood, and it doesn't stand a chance. Wow, wow.
Which is a shame. Wow, wow. Because the writing was great. This is there's some holes here or there. This is not an easy movie. This is not an easy story to tell, but I thought it was told pretty ably. It helps that the movie was subversive, so that they could kind of get away with stuff, right? It's almost cheating,
right? You talked about how the two guys behind the scenes were kind of sexist and like jingoistic.
Yeah,
and you can get away with that when the tone is like this,
right? So this movie, the tone is fairly consistent throughout the movie, that it's going to be scary and funny. We get the funny set up at the beginning with the whole office relationship between Bradley Whitford and Richard Jenkins, and then that smash cut to the title card, which is brilliant. And then it's like, oh, it's going to be a funny movie that scares me.
Yeah, if we had opened with the other characters, like just a normal standard horror movie, you wouldn't have started with that initial laugh and understanding.
Right, exactly. So they hit the tone just right. Whereas my complaint I have, and there's no other way that they could have done it. Sam Raimi couldn't have done this any differently, I don't think. The tone in Drag Me to Hell is a little muddled, and it's supposed to be, but that's hard to do. So like the first 10 minutes of Drag Me to Hell are really scary, really tense. It's it's the 50s or whatever. It's this kid. There's it's a tent. We've got all these really close camera angles, and he's sweating, and you see all these these hands, and he gets dragged down to hell, and it's really emotional. And then we go to the main character, and it's at a bank, and it's just sort of like, she's just normal, and it's gonna be this kind of movie. And it's like, but what happened? What about all the other stuff? So then eventually you come to realize that, this movie is subversive. It's playing with my expectations of how a horror movie should be set up. And I think that's the chief difference between these two movies, is that Drag Me to Hell was subversive, and the way that Sam Raimi did it was by saying, I'm going to take all of those cliches that you all just don't know how to use, and I'm going to do all of them, and I'm going to do it right, and I'm basically going to be the exception that proves the rule. And I'm going to make this amazing movie that is really scary and very tongue-in-cheek that none of you could have done. And it's going to sort of put a mirror up to you, whereas Joss was a little more direct. This was not like him he wasn't taking horror movie cliches and doing them well. He was taking horror movie cliches and saying look, you're just twiddling with dials and playing with the audience's heads and showing boobies. Look at you, you're all bad. So
yeah, Sam Raimi's movie is legitimately frightening. Many parts of it. He really relies on something that doesn't really work on me very much, but it works on most people, which is gross out stuff.
Oh man,
so many bodily fluids and the fly.
Oh.
How effective is that single fly?
it ties the whole movie together too. Which
Yes,
is brilliant.
it does. The one specific thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that the fly lands on the camera.
Yep, and it focuses on the fly. It lets you know it's a
That was
camera.
the singular moment that I was like, whoa, Sam Raimi is really messing with us right now.
On the gross out stuff. So I know a lot about Drag Me to Hell, and if you ask me point blank which one of these movies do I like better, I'd have to say Drag Me to Hell, but that's just because I've seen it like a dozen times, and maybe like I need Cabin in the Woods. I need more time.
You need time.
I need time. I can't. So obviously, if you're like, you can see Cabin in the Woods, you can see Drag Me to Hell, and or if someone was like, you can never see another one again. You have to pick one of them forever. If we're gonna kill one of them, I'd be like, sorry, Cabin in the Woods.
It sounds like a horror movie right there.
Right, exactly. It's like, Drag Me to Hell. It's like
Carter's
my wife.
choice.
Right, Drag Me to Hell. It's like my best friend, and Cabin in the Woods is like this really cool chick that I just met, and she seems really interesting. But it's like I don't know you that well. On the gross out stuff, oh my gosh, do you know the scene that I'm talking about, or you just saw it?
Yeah.
When they're in bed and Ganush gets up on her and then vomits out like maggots and
Yeah,
slime.
a bunch of like moving stuff.
Those are real maggots, and they really went into Alison Lohman's mouth.
Really?
Yeah, they set up a rig with it wasn't actually
It wasn't actually spewed by that actress.
right, that was a puppet, and they had this big giant tube that led into the mouth, and they had just like a big plunger, and they filled it up with maggots and just gross stuff, and they just plunged that thing and went right on her. And apparently they did many takes, and at one point Sam Raimi, he was right there. He was like, Allison, let's try a take with your mouth open. And she did it.
She's great in this movie. It relies on her being good, and she's very good, very effective.
That's one of the big differences between Drag Me to Hell and Cabin in the Woods is that Cabin in the Woods is an ensemble movie. I mean, she's not the main character.
No, it's very much an ensemble.
It's an ensemble. Maybe she is more our window into the action, but she's not the main character. Whereas Alison Lohman's character, Christine Brown, is the main character in this movie.
Yeah, you follow her going crazy, basically. All the characters around her doubt her and don't understand what's going on, and you're going through the same torture that she is.
Right. I mean, the only other actors. I mean, it's probably Sylvia Ganush is the character we know the most about besides Christine. I mean, you got Justin Long, and then the Medium, and they're just like sidekicks basically.
Yeah.
One thing I really liked talking about, Joss is we've talked about how he's a feminist, and a lot of his work you see that. I thought it was a very feminist movie. Usually, if you did Drag Me to Hell, the main character would be a man, and the Justin Long character would be the doting girlfriend. He's the doting boyfriend in this, which is really different. You don't see that very frequently, I don't think.
I think
in a horror movie.
The other director who I've seen handle female characters with a nice light on them is George Romero.
Definitely. Well, he's very good. He's just a really good director generally. Mr. Sapling just retweeted, "Let's do this, boycott all trailers."
Okay.
Instant feedback.
We're doing it.
It's kind of like we're live.
I tried it. I literally try to show up at theaters late enough to miss the trailers most of the time.
I mean, that's one of the things that I like the most, but now I'm starting to think that you're right. I really enjoy. I enjoy trailers, but the thing is,
I want to know just enough about the movie that I want to go see it. I typically don't want to see a 2.5 minute preview and tease of what I'm about to go see in a month.
I'm fine with seeing trailers for the movies I'm not gonna see, because then I can be like, oh, it's like I'm learning about movies.
I like Pixar's trailers were typically scenes that were just created for the trailer. I like trailers that are just like a 1.5 minute scene from the film. Like we get a scene and then maybe like a couple shots from the rest of the movie. That's all I want to see in a trailer.
Yeah, I'm concerned that I will I have been hugely spoiled for the Avengers, based on us seeing that big Shadow of the Colossus machine at the end of the one trailer that's been out there, that giant thing floating in the sky. I'm like, ooh, I bet I don't. I bet I don't. I bet I'm gonna wish I didn't know about that.
I think we talked about the trailer before. I'm hoping that most of the stuff we've seen is from the first like half hour, 45 minutes of the movie, and we haven't seen most of the rest of it yet.
Hopefully. Another commonality between Cabin in the Woods and Drag Me to Hell. Same DP.
Are you serious?
Peter Deming.
I didn't know that.
Peter Deming, he has a long storied career of being a horror movie cinematographer. He was the DP for Mulholland Drive. He did Evil Dead 2, and he did Scream 2, 3, and 4. He's done almost all of the Scream movies.
Wow.
Yeah, and he did
major respect for him, because cinematography in the dark is probably one of the hardest things to do. To make it look good in the dark is hard.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would criticize Cabin in the Woods. Certainly not Drag Me to Hell on the cinematography. The editing in the cinematography in Drag Me to Hell is unbelievable. I don't think it was nominated for anything. Well, maybe it was. I don't think it was nominated for anything, but it should have been. And so that's one of those like, oh my goodness, this movie was brilliant, and you didn't. It got a lot of horror movie awards.
I heard about it by word of mouth very quickly. A lot of people were talking about it.
It premiered at Cannes. I mean, it didn't, it was a horror movie, so they were like, oh, whatever, but it's pretty good. Yeah. One thing that I really liked, and this was a criticism I had of Cabin in the Woods, there was a lot of CGI in Cabin in the Woods, and it was not great.
Yeah, it was hit and miss.
Yeah, very.
Maybe there will be a special edition.
Maybe. Oh, jeez. Let's not go there. A lot of the stuff they did in Drag Me to Hell was practical, kind of like Inception style. They tried to do as much of it as they could practical. Like one of the really great shots is when the Lamia is upstairs and she's locked in her room. She gets flung around, and she's on the floor, and then she gets ripped up into the air and gets flung around, and it's one continuous shot. There's no Marble Hornets edit in there, and that's because they did that whole scene was wire work. They took the time. They're like, we want to do this. We want it to look real, and it never looks real when you have a CGI character flying around.
See Harry Potter.
See Harry Potter. See Yoda in the new Star Wars movies. That never looks real.
See Neo in Matrix Reloaded.
Ugh, God,
so bad.
So incredibly bad. This looked real because it was real, and they just said, we're going to take the time, we're going to train Alison Lohman how to do this, we're going to practice, she's going to get beat up, bruises, whatever, we're going to make our peace with that and do it, and they did it, and it looked great. They could have CGI'd the maggots, because it's gross, and the actress might have said, no, I'm not going to have real maggots. Are you crazy? But they're like, no, we're going to use real maggots because then it looks real.
They could have done a lot of CGI when instead they decided to use stand-ins and I guess puppetry for Ganesh. Like when she's floating around in the grave after the grave has flooded. That was obviously a set, and I don't think any part of that was CGI.
None of it was. There was a production diary of Drag Me to Hell that I've seen, where all that mud was real. The rain was real. It was a 3/4 grave, and they had this thing that they could progressively put on the fourth side, get higher and higher so that it can contain more and more mud, and they just filled it up with mud, and it was real mud. It was spa mud because Alison Lohman apparently has very sensitive skin, and all the other stuff they were using was causing her to break out in hives. So they came up with this concoction of spa mud on this set, and the set had sprinklers on the top for the rain, and it's really cool to watch Sam Raimi direct because it's loud. They got wind machines, they got rain, they got all that mud, so he's just got this big bullhorn, and he's like, now rip it open, and you're really going for it right now, and he's just shouting at her, and everybody's in windbreakers, and it also looked like. And I think that I've read some things about the Cabin in the Woods experience. It looks like a movie that was really fun to make.
Mm-hmm.
Both of these movies. It seems like everybody had a good time.
Yeah, I'm sure this was both of these were a blast to make.
Oh, how could they not be? I mean,
people doing serious movies tend to, in their off time, have a lot of fun. And often it's the opposite in comedy, because you try so hard to be funny that you're really like putting a lot of effort into playing the comedy right. And in this, they had to do a little bit of comedy, but most of the time they're just scared out of their minds.
Yeah, I mean, in both of these movies, that
The comedy is not them acting funny; it's the
Yeah.
way we interpret it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of it's dramatic irony. A lot of it is a lot of, playing to our expectations and, using cliches. But there's one thing, not just the title card smash, not just the same cinematographer, not just the same themes.
Wasn't it interesting those title card smashes were basically identical?
And they ended the movie with them too.
I actually, as Cabin in the Woods was ending, I leaned over to Alicia and was like, and I said, "Smash to title card." And like 30 seconds later, they smashed to the title card.
Yeah. Beyond all of that, and there's a reason why Sean and I wanted to talk about both of these movies at the same time. Beyond all of that, these are two horror movies where you get into it, and the action, they're paced incredibly well. And they've got a good consistent tone, and you're not confused, and you understand the characters, and everything builds and builds and builds, and at some point you realize that you're not just scared, but you're having a really good time. These movies, it's like I'm having fun watching a movie, when so many movies today feel like a Zynga game. It's like I'm doing work,
You're running a marathon.
Right? It's just like I'm going from jump scare to jump scare. They're not giving me any reason to care about these characters. You're giving me nothing, guys. I don't care about these characters. I don't care about the situation. I'm watching it for the boobs and for the gore and for the violence. And then, 82 minutes later, I'm gonna question whether this was worth $12. And neither of these movies is like that. These movies are movies where Drag Me to Hell is one of the very few movies that I've seen multiple times in the theater. The only other one I can think of right now in the past maybe 10 years is I saw The Ring twice, and I saw Harry Potter 7-2 multiple times. I saw that 3 times, but that was because I had to sneak in a 3D viewing just to confirm my suspicion that it was not that good. Not that the movie wasn't good. The movie was great, but
The 3D.
Not that good, guys. Also, why did they CGI the broom scene? Ugh! Looked so bad. Any final thoughts on Cabin in the Woods or Drag Me to Hell?
I honestly can't wait to see Cabin in the Woods again. I need to see it on this side of it. I need to see it knowing everything and go into it that way, because it's going to be a completely different experience.
I'm going to try. Maybe I'll try this weekend. I don't know. I don't think I'll be able to. I definitely can't next weekend, so I don't know. We'll see how long it was out in theaters. It's not making all that much money, which is kind of a problem.
It definitely made enough, but it's not doing as well as definitely not as well as I bet Lionsgate wanted it to do.
I mean, Drag Me to Hell made $90 million. Cabin in the Woods, I think, just cracked 40.
Yeah, just cracked 40
on a $30 million budget. So this is not the smash hit that Lionsgate thought it was going to be. Also, it's really weird. I was thinking about this. It's such a shame that this movie got delayed for stupid reasons, because Chris Hemsworth, is that how you pronounce his last name? I find it distracting that he's in it, because he was in Thor and all the other characters you don't really know. But when this movie was made, Thor hadn't been made.
You didn't know him either.
And you didn't know him, and he was just a stock character.
You basically just knew Richard Jenkins and Bradley Whitford, probably.
Exactly. I mean, and I'm not plugged in enough with the Whedonverse to have known
Fran Kranz.
Right, whatever. All the Dollhouse guy, and wasn't one of the girls also featured in Dollhouse?
Yes.
It was supposed to be that you didn't know who the hell these people were, and because of political reasons and stupid business reasons, it's like, oh, hey, Thor's in this. It's weird.
And he plays football.
Football. So, if I don't think we can say go see these things. We've said it so many times, but I mean,
no. But what we can say is next week, and actually, it's out in other parts of the world already. We're going to be talking about the Avengers, and it comes out on Friday.
Yeah, so we're almost certainly gonna spoil it, and we're gonna talk about it over the weekend. So this one, we're not gonna like give you the time that you had on Cabin in the Woods. You're just gonna have to see it.
Yeah.
So
And this will be posted on a vlog coming out later, but I'll let you know here. This podcast or next week's podcast will not be posted on Sunday. It will be maybe Tuesday, because I'm going on vacation. So we'll be recording a podcast, but it'll get posted when it's posted. How about that?
It'll be out there when it's out there. You guys are gonna love it. So just don't complain. But yes, you'll also notice, audience, that we still haven't revealed what our secret project is after the Avengers. All will be revealed next time. All will be revealed next time on Shawn and Carter podcast.
Perfect.